So guys, we need to come up with like a new idea, right? Because we try to, we have a good team going. I think we can really get a decent social media network going. But I want it to be something like Facebook, right? Because Facebook, I mean, they're the largest social network worldwide. I mean, if they have 2.89 million users, you know, ideally, imagine if we had like a tenth of that. That would be crazy. We could make a lot of revenue off that. So ideally, they were started in 2004, and it's just a couple guys in a college room. So, that's us. We're just in our college dorm, basically, so we could easily kind of do something similar to that. So they called it Face Smash originally because I guess, like, it was kind of like a scandalous thing where they were, they basically were kind of comparing people and comparing students, and they actually kind of hacked into the Harvard system to get the IDs to compare each other. But they saw how successful that was. Even though it got shut down quickly, the student body loved it. I think they had like 1,200 signups like right away. So we need a really good idea, something that goes with Facebook, but we need to kind of figure out kind of like their strengths and weaknesses. We need to figure out their mission statement and kind of mirror that so we can hopefully create like a successful product. So I don't know if you got any of that written down, but that's kind of what we need to go for. So.
All right, Facebook's mission and vision statement. Their mission statement is to give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together. And they've been doing that successfully with their 2.89 billion users. And their vision statement is that people use Facebook to stay connected with friends and family and to discover what's going on in the world and to share and express what's important to them. And there's been many stories of people getting married, reconnecting, and making lifelong friends due to Facebook's mission and vision statement.
But also, some of these substitutes include Twitter or YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, Reddit, Apple, and even Google. From smaller ones to bigger ones, Facebook is trying to do their best to stay ahead. But we'll catch up.
All right, Facebook's bargaining power of suppliers and buyers. So Facebook has become one of the most recognizable logos, let alone social media companies. Facebook is the owner of other companies such as Instagram, WhatsApp, and Oculus VR. That furthers their revenue by over $20 billion. However, the bargaining power with the suppliers is weak due to a saturated market. All right, Facebook's bargaining power of suppliers and buyers. So Facebook has become one of the most recognizable logos, let alone social media companies. Facebook is the owner of other companies such as Instagram, WhatsApp, and Oculus VR. That furthers their revenue by over $20 billion. However, the bargaining power with the suppliers is weak due to a saturated market. The bargaining power of buyers, Facebook is only able to function due to their users who utilize it. Facebook makes connecting with others seamless and smooth, and to add to that, Facebook makes millions from ad revenue alone, which influences their stock price and also makes Facebook an attractive tool for smaller businesses to gain traction in a smaller market.
Okay, so basically then we need to break down, we have this thing called the Porter 5-force model to kind of like captivate the internal and external problems that like kind of face Facebook. So competition and like rivalry is moderate to high. I would argue that's actually pretty high because you look at like your time spent on your phone, right? You're gonna use it between your emails, Twitter, other social media platforms. Facebook's constantly fighting for that. Bargaining power of customers. Without customers, Facebook and the entire social media platforms don't really exist. They need those customers to have that connectivity. So again, I would kind of argue that's more of like a high issue. New entrances, that's where we want to come in, right? So even though it's moderate, we want to try to be as aggressive as possible and captivate somewhere on like their strengths and weaknesses where we can kind of fit into the market. Bargaining power with suppliers is low. And then substitutes is kind of similar to like the rivalry again, is moderate to high because there are a lot of substitutes. And that's where, again, I kind of want us to come in as a new social media platform to undercut Facebook and be one of those substitutes.
So, let's get down to it, okay? We know that Facebook is known worldwide. Facebook has a global presence with about 2.9 billion active users each month. Facebook has been able to dominate the social media field with their brand outreach, and in theory has unlimited growth potential to reach every person with internet access throughout the world. Now, previously we said that one of their strengths was their advertising business model, but I have to tell you something. it's also one of their weaknesses. While lucrative and effective, having so much revenue generated from one source can be very dangerous. If regulatory or macroeconomic conditions adversely affect, will just backfire because that's their main source of revenue. You get me? All right. So the last one of Facebook's opportunities would be their dominant position. So Facebook actually has a dominant position in the social networking industry to the point where they could leverage their user base in order to create more revenue. However, at the same time, they do this thing with network sharing, which creates a larger feedback loop in their own surface area that they have on the industry in order to create more attention and then thus more revenue. So, in summary, Facebook has to maintain these key factors. First and foremost, they must maintain a competitive advantage when compared to other social media apps, since they are the hugest one out right now, and that's their greatest strength. They do it well and they do it good. However, Facebook also benefits greatly from their advertising strategy so long as they make sure that their sites are not filled with random phishing ads and whatever else that can put their users at risk. Which brings me to our last point. They better do better in investing in the security and identification verification methods so that their users aren't at risk in using any of their services or other websites, whether it be Facebook dating or the Facebook marketplace. As long as Facebook can maintain these advantages and strengths, they should be A-okay. So, another issue that we run into with Facebook in particular is identity theft. Online, people don't know who you are when you're sending messages from different kinds of emails or whatever else like that. So when you get messaged by random people on Facebook Messenger, you don't know who they're claiming to be. Who am I?
Alright, so thank you so much, Donald Glover, for covering our beautiful SWOT analysis. That was great. So now, on to Facebook-specific objectives. So we got the share information, right? They want it to be a place of information. The importance of site traffic, and the growing market share and revenue stream. So basically, you know, with the place to share information, you can share pictures, family events, any of that stuff, connect with people. Site traffic, again, kind of like the customers. Without the customers, it's kind of a useless website, so they need people constantly on there. And they're clearly doing that well since they have, you know, almost 3 billion people on there monthly. And then they want to keep growing market share, which ideally every company wants to do. So then let's move on to the next portion of the specific objectives. My beautiful assistant here. So then we have the site traffic. Again, we talked about that, but the way they get through that is with engagement. So site traffic kind of means nothing if people are just coming and going. So actually having people engaged, liking, commenting, sharing things, that really is like the main kind of like backbone of what Facebook is. And then reach kind of goes back into like their market share, and they try to have more people reach out across different countries. I mean, they're a multinational company, so they're all over the place. And then brand awareness. Truthfully, Facebook has had some hit or miss with their brand awareness. Like we were talking, or reputation, I should say. Like he was talking about the Cambridge Analytical thing. That hurt their name, but also Facebook's a household name. Everybody knows Mark Zuckerberg and everybody knows Facebook.
So, keep up. The very last thing we're going to talk about in the SWOT analysis is threats. The first one of the threats that Facebook faces, because they're a mostly online company and all their websites have ads running rampant across them, they end up running trouble when people install ad blockers onto their web browsers. Facebook. Okay, so that was our diversified holdings. You can see right here. Our very last strengths of Facebook that we'll be talking about today, of what we'd like to be one day, is the advertising business model. Now, Facebook does that amazingly. Over the past several years, the advertising model has been extremely effective in generating revenue for Facebook and gives large outreach to businesses that advertise on their platform. So in 2020, Facebook had 85.97 Diversify their revenue stream. With such a large and loyal user base like Facebook, they have the means of generating revenue elsewhere, whereas smaller firms would not be able to do the same thing. So, looking at the threat of new entrants, Facebook remains a powerhouse as a media conglomerate and faces low competition from rivals and continues to create new applications and accessories to their foundation to keep up with other newer social media entities that are emerging, like us. We're looking at the very last part of Facebook's threats. Stolen data. I'm due. Not too long ago, someone stole my duds. Now I'm only D. What do I do about that? Not too long ago, there was the Cambridge Analytica data scandal. And they stole about 50 million users' information. I don't even know what to say about that. Except that in one weekend, that led to a 13% drop in Facebook stock. Facebook's got to cut that out.
Go.
All right, Facebook's business level strategy, they use the cost leadership competitive strategy, and that involves minimizing the cost of doing business, which enables Facebook to reduce its prices competitively. They also use computing technologies, which increases efficiency of the social networking site itself, and the online nature allows them to easily reach users across international markets and satisfy the broad competitive scope of the cost leadership strategy. They also use market penetration to increase market share. That's it.
Go.
All right, Facebook's business level strategy, they use the cost leadership competitive strategy, and that involves minimizing the cost of doing business, which enables Facebook to reduce its prices competitively. They also use computing technologies, which increases efficiency of the social networking site itself, and the online nature allows them to easily reach users across international markets and satisfy the broad competitive scope of the cost leadership strategy. They also use market penetration to increase market share. That's it.
Go.
All right, getting back to the cost leadership strategy. Number one problem with that is generating revenue at lower costs than their competitors. And the solution to that would be creating more places for ads so that they keep up with costs in other areas such as security.
Go.
All right, Facebook's diversification strategy. They use that as a supporting intensive strategy for growth, and the main objective is to establish new business. This strategy is used to purchase and establish new subsidiaries to increase revenue and market reach.